The Florida Panthers are back in action after the holiday break, where this team usually performs well after having a long layoff.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into this Wednesday, December 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12, follow show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So, apologies for getting this episode a little later than usual. I did make the short drive from Orlando this morning to cover this game. I'm currently in the Amalie Arena media room, which is why you hear my voice a little lower than usual, but it is a Wednesday, which means it is a Winans Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Jacob Winans, the show here, and Jacob, great to have you on, my friend.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here as usual. We got a big one tonight. This is a huge game, one of the biggest of the season. So happy it falls on a Wednesday.
No doubt, and we'll discuss more about the matchup in segment number 3, as this is their first of 3 matchups this season. So a little bit of a World Junior update for the Florida Panthers is Czechia. It looks like they are going to come out on top over Norway by a final score of 5-1 and Sandis Vilmanis and Latvia are about to take the ice against Team Canada at 1:30, where it's currently 1:27 p.m. on a Wednesday, and Sandis Vilmanis will be facing off against his junior coach in Alan Letang, and not going to be an easy task with a lot of players who are already drafted as well. You got Easton Cowan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Matthew Patra, who's already with the Boston Bruins as well, Macklin Salabrini, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick this coming draft as well. Big task ahead. And also notice that the pick that the Buffalo Sabres used in the Sam Reinhart trade, Yuri Kulich, he got 2 goals today for Team Czechia. So a little bit of that out there for as far as the updates for the 2024 World Junior Championships. But Jacob, I want to discuss more about how really even before Paul Maurice came into the picture for really the President's Trophy winning season, every time that the Panthers have had a long break during the last 3 years, they've always come out with an extra jump in their step when they get on the ice. And 2 of those examples were against the Tampa Bay Lightning. One of them just after the Christmas break, and there is a little bit of a caveat there. It was during the time of COVID when the Omicron variant was spreading more and cancellation of games. A lot of the players from the Tampa Bay Lightning were not playing that game, so it was a 9-3 final. But then recent history, this past year, after the All-Star break, where the Panthers get that thrilling win over the Boston Bruins, Sam Reinhart, Alexander Barkov scoring some clutch goals, but then they come out firing against the Tampa Bay Lightning 7-1 in that final as well. And I kind of got an opportunity to ask Paul Maurice about why that is, and it's just sticking to the systems and really keeping their game fairly simple as well. And we're going to discuss more about this upcoming schedule in segment number 2. But why also do you think is the reason why the Panthers come out firing after these long breaks?
I think it's just it's really about the style that they play. The Panthers play a style that's high speed, highly physical. Their style of play exerts a lot of energy, It takes a lot out of guys physically. So being able to have a break to rest physically, I feel like that helps them when they come out of the break. They're fresh. A lot of those bumps and bruises have healed. The legs are there, especially when it's coming out of a break when you're either at home or close to home. An away game at Tampa is not much of an away game. Um, as far as travel and things like that. So it's typically a same day trip. It's right in the backyard, so it's almost a home game physically. Um, so it allows them to be at 100% physically, and that freshness is you can see it in the way they skate. They usually come out strong in first periods, and that can overwhelm a lot of teams. In some cases, it's even better to come out of a break on the road because teams that are at home have been relaxing, especially for holidays. We saw right after Thanksgiving, almost every single home team after Thanksgiving lost, the Panthers included, because the home teams were kind of resting on their laurels a little bit for the holiday, and I think that's advantaged Florida in a matchup like tonight. But it's a welcome sight when they come out of breaks because it's a simplified system. It's high octane, it's fast, it's aggressive, and when the Panthers are doing that, being able to have fresh legs is a huge part of that, and we've seen how they look when they have that. So it's exciting. Just stylistically, I love watching them play when they're coming off of these breaks and they have that freshness, and it's it's interesting with some of our other South Florida teams around here coming out of breaks is actually a big disadvantage. We've got some local teams that tend to not do so well after breaks. I'm a very proud Miami Hurricanes fan, and we are horrible coming off of bye weeks. So when I see the Panthers coming out of their breaks and they're flying around and the energy is high and everyone's prepared, it's a really welcome sight. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and like we speak about so many times about their style of play, it travels based on the
Yeah,
aggressive forechecking and protecting the middle of the ice as well. So I think that's very beneficial for the Panthers as well when it comes to that game traveling. And a little bit of notes for you guys, for the listeners, and for you as well, Jacob, is that the Panthers got here this morning. They did not travel the night before, so they're coming in. Arrived in Tampa around 10 a.m. Got the close bus to the rink because the airport is nearby, and then got on the ice at 11:30. And also, everyone was in attendance as well. That's a little bit of a note of morning skate as well. So that is awesome for the Panthers. And Paul Maurice even spoke about how if he could travel the day of the game, not have the morning skate, and just go right to the game and fly back, even better. But with the 3 days off, the morning skate was necessary for the Panthers as well. So a chance for them to be refreshed once again. But we're gonna transition over to segment number 2. We're gonna discuss more about this break and what's coming ahead, and how this is the most important stretch of the Panthers season, as January is going to be a filled with a lot of road games at the beginning. We're going to discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, and you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal without the hidden fees. Game Time has tickets up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. Some people might have been lucky this past weekend if they wanted to go see the Miami Dolphins win at the last minute against the Dallas Cowboys. There might have been people out there who have used the Game Time app. So with zone deals, you pick up the section, and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. Back on this Wednesday, December 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And Jacob, real quick, I'm so glad I went through that ad read without laughing, talking about the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins. Quickly, 30 seconds. How are you feeling today, my friend?
It's good that the loss came right at Christmas time, because I had Christmas morning the next day and I could bounce back, spend some time with my family. But that was rough. I would need a lot more than 30 seconds to go into everything about that game that disappointed me. Tony Pollard, you got to finish that run. Cannot fumble on the goal line if you're Hunter Lipke. And it's been 39 quarters since Micah Parsons has drawn a holding penalty call. I'm just going to put that out there for you, since you are an official. Just putting that out there. Someone's got to free my man Micah Parsons, because he's in prison right now with these refs.
So yeah, a big win for the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. Big one this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. And because of copyright reasons, we cannot play that Stephen A. Smith accident waiting to happen thing. Listen to that, because I was enjoying that song. But Jacob, when it comes to getting back to the hockey side of things, so when it comes to this upcoming schedule for the Panthers, we know what the December schedule is always going to be towards the end of it. It's going to be at least one back-to-back against these original 6 Northeastern teams and all. But think about what the Panthers went through last season as far as the 3 back-to-backs in the same month. They went through some injuries with the goaltending position as well, with Bobrovsky pulling his groin, Alex Lyon coming in. But then when you look at this upcoming month for the Florida Panthers, I mean, they're going to be flying out New Year's Day. Maybe they'll watch some college football on the plane. I'm sure they will. But it's going to be a tough travel day for them, road heavy to start with their 4-game road trip in Arizona, Vegas, Colorado, and St. Louis and all. But Paul Maurice spoke about January last year. We haven't gotten an opportunity to talk to him this year about January. We're not there yet. I'm sure he's not even thinking about it. He's just thinking about these next 3 games. But this is the big stretch for the Panthers, because we saw what happened last year at the beginning. Yaroslav Halak and the New York Rangers defeat the Florida Panthers. Mika Zibanejad goes off against the Cats as well. In the middle of that, 7 goals for the Panthers. They're one of their 4 7-goal games against the Habs as well. But then there's a light at the end of the tunnel with the home-heavy schedule. There's going to be a 5-game homestand as well towards the end of the month. And if you get past this point, this 8-game stretch, you are setting yourself up. And I'm not going to I don't want to put too much stocks in the standings right now, but the Toronto Maple Leafs had the same amount of points with 2 games in hand. However, the Panthers do have the tie-breaking advantage with regulation wins. So how are you viewing this next 7 games for the Panthers here?
Right now it's crucial. I think getting wins against the teams that you're supposed to win against on paper, we put a lot of stock into that, taking care of business against the lesser teams in the standings. You have to win those games. I think sometimes we put too much into that, because in the NHL, any team can win on any given day.
Mm-hmm.
But in a stretch like this is where you cannot lose a trap game. A Montreal game is not one you can lose. An Arizona game, even, they are very hit or miss. Arizona, they can score at will, but they also have some defensive breakdowns. You don't know if they're going to score 6 or give up 6 on any given night. That's a game you have to win. St. Louis, you can't go 0-2 against St. Louis in their current state. That's a game you've got to win. And then from there, if you take care of the games that you're supposed to win, pretty much breaking even on the other ones puts you in a really good spot. So, and I'm not expecting to go on that road trip and sweep that road trip, beating St. Louis, Arizona, Vegas, and Colorado. Panthers have never won a game in Vegas. That's something that you never call it a scheduled loss or say that they have no chance, because it's the NHL. But that's a game where historically I don't feel super confident going into it. So you have to win the games around it, where if you lose that game, it doesn't break your road trip. And if you win it, now that's extra points in the bank versus what you were realistically hoping for. So this stretch is huge. You have to come out of this stretch above 500. You don't have to light the world on fire and win 5-6 in a row here. That would be unrealistic. But if you can look at these next 8 games or so on the schedule, and you come out of that with 10 points, come out 5-3, any combination that gets you 10 points, I think you're pretty comfortable with that when you look at what comes after this. So I think expectations, we have to taper expectations a little bit. This is not the President's Trophy winning team that's going to outscore everybody, go on a long winning streak. Not saying they can't, but it's just not something that you would expect. It's about staying above water, stay above 500, keep the pace, and then when you get that home heavy stretch, that's when you can really pile up the points. And if you look at the standings, if the Panthers were in any other division, you'd feel a lot better. But the Panthers are in the Atlantic Division, which is a very talent-heavy division. This game against Tampa tonight, yes, the Panthers have games in hand, but Tampa's 1 point behind. So if you lose this game in regulation, all of a sudden you're below Tampa in the standings. And that would almost be a disservice to the way the Panthers have played this year, because they've been really good. This is a team that should absolutely be a playoff team. The points, the record is good. The point total is good. The point percentage is good. It's just everyone in the Atlantic Division is good. And everyone in the Atlantic Division is a threat. It's a high scoring division. It's a division that has a lot of good goaltenders. So you really can't afford to have any long stretches of losing streaks. We saw how the Panthers were well ahead, and then you have a tough Western Conference road trip, and all of a sudden you're right back in the middle of the pack in the division in where points are concerned, and bouncing between third and wild card, and it's things can change quickly. So it's about keeping the pace. And I think if you look at this stretch, it's winnable games. It's going to be some intense games, some rivalry games, but that's what you hope for. And I think the Panthers are getting healthy at the right time and finding their game at the right time, because if you bring the game that they played against Vegas against any of these teams on the schedule, I like our odds. I think that's the style the Panthers want to play. They did it to perfection against Vegas, and I think that's one you can you watch the tape on, you pack that one up, and you try to carry that into your next game.
Yeah, and adversity is great, right? And you think about the Panthers stopping the bleeding before the break as well, and history has shown that they have been able to as well. I mean, you think about the last season where you blow out Montreal and then you get shut out by Carolina, and then that was back to back, and then usually the team is off the very next day, but Palmieri said, no, we're gonna get back on the ice and practice, and there's a sense of urgency here. It's thankfully it's not panic mode for the Panthers this time around as well. So you could, and think about this, we were not expecting the Panthers to go into Colorado last year and come out with a win. Yeah, it was a little bit scary with the Colorado Avalanche coming back in the final period, but the Panthers were able to get a win that we were not expecting them to get in a very tough environment. That was the Stanley Cup champions at the time as well. So, hey, the Coyotes are not they're not a doormat anymore. They are no. Connor Ingram is definitely performing really well for the Arizona Coyotes as well this season. And I believe Logan Cooley suffered an injury last week, crashing into the end boards. I believe so. Got to see, but that's still ways ahead before the Panthers do see Arizona. That'll be next Tuesday as well. But we are going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to focus on tonight's matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning from Amalie Arena. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, customers can get up to $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better place to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com and place your bets for the march to the NFL postseason. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Segment number 3 here on this Wednesday, December 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday edition of the show, a Winans Wednesday edition. So, Jacob, right now, as the all-time series stands between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, 77, 77, and 10. And according to mcube.net about the season series, and that combines ties and overtime losses together, in that it does not separate it for some weird reason. But since the Panthers broke their 8-game losing streak against the Tampa Bay Lightning on February 15th, 2021, that 8-game losing streak was 0-5-3. The Panthers are 2-2-2 at Amalie Arena since that. So it's not as much of a house of horrors as it has been in the last few years. So, and their most recent trip, they were able to get a win, scoring 3 goals in the first period. I believe there was 2 disallowed goals in that first period, one by each team, if I remember correctly. But this edition of the Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, think about weathering a storm for them. As far as Jonas Johansson, I know we're familiar with him as well in a Florida Panthers sweater, but getting to overtime and as well, and helping with the loser point as well has really helped. He has 2 shutouts, but in those 2 shutouts, the Tampa Bay Lightning did score 9 goals in those 2 shutouts as well. So, but since Andre Vasilevsky has been back, the high danger chances are still there, but the goals are not getting to the back of the net. It's a 0.17 save percentage difference between JoJo and Vasilevsky, and the goal save above expected for Vasilevsky is 2.9, and both Johansson and Tompkins are in the negatives. But since Vasilevsky has been back, the offense has not scored as much as well. But Vasilevsky is on a 3-game winning streak, and didn't start off so hot. But it's funny because I kind of relate this to the Florida Panthers on getting a big defensive piece back with Ekblad and Montour. Their defensive numbers have gone down, but along with their offense as well. So with Vasilevsky, I know we're comparing a goalie to defenseman here. The goals have gone down since he's been back, and this goal scoring. I mean, they can score on the power play. That's what's really helped them get through as far as this stretch without a 30.4. I mean, Kucherov having an MVP season. Throwback to 2019 where he won the Art Ross and Hart Trophy in a contract year as well. And there's a lot. By the way, Sergachev will not be playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they still have the pedigree, the championship pedigree there, even with having to let a lot of players go to the cap, which one of them, including Carter Verhaeghe. We saw that line in Barclay Goodrow, Yanni Gourde, and Blake Coleman all leave, but still, the pedigree is still there for this team as well.
Sorry, Armando, I'm losing you I lost you for a second.
I'm saying the Tampa Bay Lightning still have the pedigree, even though they had to get through that stretch without Andre Vasilevsky, and their power play has really got them through. And Nikita Kucherov, throwback to 2019 when he was winning the Hart Trophy. How are you seeing this as far as their pedigree and continuing to still be in the race?
Yeah, it's kind of a repeated story that we've talked about for years now. They always seem to find a way. It's as a Panther fan, it gets a little bit annoying because every year you're like, this is the year they're gonna fall off. This is the year that they're gonna lose too much and they're not gonna be able to maintain. But even with the Vasilevsky injury. It's such a good veteran team. They have such a good core of players that have been there and done everything there is to do. They find ways to win. They find ways to stay relevant. The one thing the Panthers haven't quite figured out this year, and some of it is luck, but the Panthers haven't quite figured out this year how to get to overtime consistently and rack up an extra or rack up a point in the loss, which is something they're going to have to do because those extra single points here and there are important because you're seeing that with Tampa, you're seeing that with Toronto. They've found a way to stay afloat, and now they've got Vasilevsky back, and we know that he plays his best hockey against the Panthers. That's no secret. Bob versus Vasilevsky is a matchup that we've seen a million times, and we know what to expect from Vasi. You never expect a bad game from him. If you get a bad game here and there, you count your lucky stars. But he's top 2 goalie in the world, and that's what you're up against. Now, if the Panthers want to win this game, it's going to come down to discipline. You got to stay out of the box. That Tampa power play, we've said this for years. They are lethal. Braden Point in that bumper position, Stamkos and Kucherov as your dual one-timers on either side. It's nearly impossible to defend. If you end up in the box 2, 3, 4 times, you're almost spotting them 2 goals. You can't have it. So discipline's going to be important, and staying the course, because we've seen the Panthers come out with some hot starts, and then if they don't score right away, they'll give up the first goal, and we can see them spiral in that situation sometimes. Stay the course. Don't take any penalties until you're on the board. That's really the method here. That's the strategy to beating this Tampa team. And at the end of the day, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they have excellent offensive talent when it comes to Stamkos, Kucherov, Point, Victor Hedman. But what's really been depleted the last couple of years is their depth. Their bottom 2 lines. The Panthers should have an advantage in the bottom 6. But this would be a huge opportunity for the Panthers' bottom 6 to finally step up and provide some support, some supplemental scoring. The depth scoring has been a problem for the Panthers, but on paper they should have the advantage against the Tampa Bay Lightning's bottom 6, and it's a big game for them to step up, because these top 6s almost cancel each other out every time they match up. And I'm still looking for Tkachuk to get his offensive game going. He's had a few days off now, some rest, first real chance for him to kind of get off his feet and recover a little bit. I'm looking for him to find his offensive game and his confidence, because that's really the difference. If you look where the Panthers are in the standings, it's remarkable that they're here with the lack of consistent production from their best offensive weapon from a year ago, and it's not going to stay that way for long. So I'm looking for Tkachuk. I'm looking for the depth scoring, and I'm just looking for discipline. Stay out of the box. Do not give Tampa any unnecessary power plays, because they are very, very hard to stop, and they always have been.
And the thing is that with this team, you have so many options. You speak about the one-timers of Kucherov and Stamkos on the flanks, but their ability to get, you spoke about Braden Point at the bumper. Like, if Hedman's at the point, it's not just sometimes it's not always just a quick pass for a one-timer for Kucherov. It's just how quick he's able to get that touch pass to the slot as well. And that's really, that's where you really, for the Florida Panthers, you really got to position yourself so that you can disrupt the pass there as well, and even break up something that will clear the zone as well. So very important on that penalty kill as far as the middle as well, because we've seen it. We've even seen Braden Point and his breakaway goals as well in overtime, which we've seen this team get burned too many times as well. And also for the second pair of defense for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Hayden Fleury will be in the second pair for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and him and Chernak are at +2 at 5-on-5 as well. So, of course, they're better without Sergachev, but that is a stat that I saw today on MoneyPuck.com as far as that. So no Sergachev tonight, but the rest of the lineup looks in good shape for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Panthers lineup is in good shape as well. No lineup changes from the game against Vegas, and they're You want to beat the opposition at their best for sure. And it's a big opportunity as the Panthers. This is getting a more of a comfortable place for them to play in, especially now that even though they lost 2 playoff series here, that experience has really helped them as far as being more comfortable in a place like Tampa, Florida for them. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Another successful Winans Wednesday, my friend. Tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8. Thanks for having me as always, and enjoy the game out there in enemy territory. Hold it down for us.
Thank you so much, and I will see you next Tuesday night as we will be doing post game for the Panthers West Coast trip out in Arizona. So see you next week, my friend.
Looking forward to it. A late night.
Mm-hmm. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On AHL network, including Locked On AHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida every day.